January 30th, 1943. Berlin. 5 minutes past noon. Snow drifts along Unter den Linden as loudspeakers blare Wagner outside the Reich Chancellery. Inside, the marble walls of the Great Hall reverberate with shouting, Goebbels' propaganda ministry marking the 10th anniversary of Hitler's rise to power. The sky outside is low and gray, the city halfway between war and theater. 900 miles to the west, in a dispersal field near Marham, Norfolk, 2 crews in fur-lined flight jackets climb into something that doesn't look like war's usual machine. RAF 105 Squadron's latest Mark IV de Havilland Mosquitoes crouch on the neat concrete like predatory birds, slim, double-merlined, carved from wood and ambition. No turrets, no armor plate, just a plywood fuselage built of birch, balsa, and glue. Flight Lieutenant George Perry slides into his cockpit, hand-finding the throttles that control 12 cylinders in each Rolls-Royce Merlin 21. His navigator, Flight Officer Gordon Lewis, settles beside him, checklists half memorized. The aircraft smells faintly of dope and spruce, like a carpenter's shop turned weapon. Berlin in daylight, Perry says, the words half a smirk. Someone's mad. Lewis replies without looking up. Well, then fitting were the ones they set. At 12:44 hours, throttles shove forward. The twin Merlins wind into a howl that shakes the earth and leaves a thin vapor behind the tail. The Mosquito leaps off the runway, wheels tucking away in a second. Beneath the nose, 2 500-pound bombs ride in the internal bay, fuses set for immediate. Altitude 20,000 feet. The Thames glitters under a break in the clouds, then disappears behind them. The crew runs dead reckoning, no contrails, no chatter. They cross Holland at 21,000 feet, below the radar net sweep threshold, above the cold logic of flak. The wooden wings flex and hum with speed. Over the Zuider Zee, Perry checks the chronometer. Right on time. Berlin in 40. Across the radio net, 3 other Mosquitoes answer with clicks. Another flight from 139 Squadron comes in staggered behind, there to arrive at exact intervals like clock chimes. The raid isn't about destruction. It's about humiliation. Inside Berlin, Goebbels steps up to the microphone in the packed broadcasting house. His speech begins with perfect timing, until the air raid sirens cut through the city's public address system. All across the Tiergarten, heads turn upward. Silver flashes blink between clouds. Unidentified aircraft approaching from west, fast, very fast, reports the Luftwaffe air raid control room at 1C. Estimated altitude 18 to 20,000. Possibly escorts for heavier formation? Controllers jerk to their stations, spinning dials. There's nothing on the scopes for a moment, then thin echoes dart too quickly to track. At Tempelhof, Focke-Wulf 190 scramble into swirling flurries. Ground crews barely finish warming the engines before the first Mosquito pair screams overhead. 12:56 p.m. Perry throttles forward, instruments trembling. Target sighted. Below the clouds, Berlin unfurls like a map. The snow makes aim easy, gray buildings cut clear against white. Lewis flips the guard off the bomb release switch. 2 seconds early, he mutters. Close enough for Berlin, Perry says. He steadies, crosshairs dancing over the rectangular shadow of the broadcasting house. Bombs gone. The Mosquito jumps light, banking east to clear the flak towers already opening fire. Shells burst black and useless 200 feet below. Perry dives shallow, throttles full, 370 miles per hour. The twin Merlins hit their harmony, metallic, triumphant. Below, glass shatters in the radio tower. Goebbels' words die mid-sentence. Office clerks and propaganda secretaries pour into shredded corridors. In the confusion, another echo tears across the city, then another. 3 more Mosquitoes in timed succession drop over Berlin center. 1 pair targeting the Göring Air Ministry, another the main rail yard. The flak screens cannot adjust in time. Within 90 minutes, 6 separate squadrons appear, disappear and are gone, leaving smoke columns the width of a street lamp. Oberstleutnant von Holzmann, directing fighters from the western sector, slams his headset onto the table. Wooden aeroplanes, he shouts. Wooden. My Focke-Wulfs can't catch wooden aeroplanes. By 1410 hours, the sky above Germany is empty again. The Mosquitoes have outrun pursuit, shedding altitude over the North Sea, returning sun-scarred and unscathed. Perry's voice crackles through the static to base operations. Berlin bombed. On the hour. Tell them the speeches can resume. In Berlin, microphones hang in silence. Goebbels climbs from the bunker dust-covered and livid. Cameras will never record the exact words he screams at his aides. But every clerk in the propaganda ministry remembers the same phrase whispered afterward. They hit us in daylight. For the Luftwaffe, the humiliation is complete. For the Mosquito crews, it is only the beginning. Summer 1943. The fields around RAF Marham hum with the ritual of flight prep. Ground crews in blue coveralls, oil drums rolling to the rhythm of Merlins, propellers flashing silver in the first light. 105 and 139 squadrons have lived half a year on one promise. Their aircraft, derided early as plywood wonders, now own the fastest wings in Europe. Bomber Command has let them loose far ahead of the Lancaster streams, deeper than even the Spitfire could escort. No armor. No turrets. 2 men alone behind 18 millimeters of laminated wood. The Mosquito survival equation is arrogant in its simplicity, speed over everything. Flight Lieutenant Rod Mac McClanahan, 139 Squadron, runs a gloved hand over the wing root, still warm from the early engine test. Each one feels different, smoother than metal, faintly alive. The plane was built not in a foundry but in carpenters' shops in Hatfield, Cardiff and St. Albans, crafted by joiners used to building furniture, not fighters. Mac winks at his navigator. Beautiful, isn't she? Smells like a violin. Their mission board reads, Aalborg radio station, Denmark, pinpoint daylight attack at treetop level. In the Luftwaffe's interception center at Stade, technicians watch their scopes for predictable patterns, slow bomber streams that glint like parades of light. When they see aircraft moving at speeds nearing 400 miles an hour, their brains don't accept it. Must be a misread, one tells the controller. Perhaps fighters transferring bases. The Phantom in question is McClanahan's flight of 4 Mosquitoes, 18,000 feet over the North Sea, descending in formation so tight that the tips of their wings flick across one another's prop wash. Germany's Western radar net breathes around them, too fast for tracking equipment to lock, too low for flak emplacements to adjust. Through the canopy, Denmark rises in green and gray ahead. McClanahan mutters, we're down in 10, strap in, this'll be rough as hell. At 50 feet off the North Sea, speed climbs to 360 miles per hour. White wakes follow the wingtips. Cows scatter across dunes as the bombers cross the coast. For a final moment, German fishermen on the shore glance up, startled, thinking they're seeing fighters coming home. Then the first Mosquito banks inland over Aalborg's airfield and releases its load, a delayed fuse 500-pounder that tunnels through the roof of the transmitter hall before bursting. Steel and antennae rip upward, folded like paper in a hurricane. McClanahan sees the explosion in his mirror, grins. Target down. Time from coast, 4 minutes. Behind them, a pair of Focke-Wulf 190s climbs from Jever attempting pursuit. At full throttle they're still too slow. The German flight leader, Hauptmann Rau, pushes his engine to overboost, the manifold pressure needle quivering in the red. His gunner calls bearings, but the British aircraft shrink in seconds, leaving only contrails twisting briefly before vanishing. In his after-action report that evening, Rau writes, impossible. Climbs like a fighter, bombs like a medium, cannot intercept. The Mosquito is untouchable. Through 1943 and 1944, the Masi becomes a ghost the Luftwaffe cannot exorcise. Low-level photographs of Gestapo offices, radar stations and rail yards appear on British desks days later. Proof of visits from aircraft no German fighter ever clearly saw. The myth builds until one clear October dawn, 1944, when crews of 464 and 487 squadrons at RAF gravely load film cameras beside their bombs. The target, Gestapo headquarters, Aarhus, Denmark, an operation so precise it reads more like theft than bombing. At the briefing, Wing Commander Peter Gilpin sketches the target block on the chalkboard, 4 stories, corner entrance, archives in the basement. We're going in under the wires, he says. Silence follows. 9 aircraft depart just after 8 o'clock. The Danish coast appears minutes later, sunlight flashing off greenhouses. Civilians look up from markets to see the strangeness. Bombers at rooftop level, engines a twin scream over cobblestones. The German garrison barely manages to man its flak guns before the first Mosquito strafes the guard posts. Sea spray still clings to windshields when the lead pilot presses the release button. Bombs strike within the courtyard, lifting the building's facades in a single breath. The archives, where files on Danish resistance networks have been stored, go into fire and ash while the neighboring hospital remains intact, untouched at 50 meters. 9 minutes from entry to exit. Back in London, the radio intercept team reports chaos in German transmissions out of Jutland. Commanders cannot comprehend how bombers arrived without warning. One Luftwaffe cable reads, enemy unknown type. Wood construction suspected. Speed exceeds radar intercept tables. That night, in a bar near Whitehall, one Mosquito navigator raises his glass and says, if it's made of wood, it shouldn't fly. If it's made of courage, it shouldn't need to. No one argues. For every century that believed victory came from steel and armor, a plywood ghost now owns the sky. March 21, 1945. Dawn filters weakly through low Danish cloud. On the tarmac at RAF Fursfield, Norfolk, air crew stand around a chalkboard where Wing Commander Robert Bob Bateson sketches fast lines across a map of Copenhagen. His voice is clear, deliberate. Target, Schelles. Gestapo headquarters, Kampmannsgade. Files and prisoners on upper floors. Timing must be exact to limit collateral. We're striking the roof, not the whole block. Around him sit the men of 464 Squadron RAF and 487 Squadron RNF, flying to Havilland Mosquitoes with a nerve-tight calm. Each pilot has run 3 practice flights over model towns built by Royal Engineers. They know what happens if they miss. The Schelles stands beside schools, apartment blocks and tram lines already pulsing with civilians starting their day. Bateson closes the map folder. Low altitude only. 35 feet over the channel, 120 over the city. First wave takes out air defenses. Second on the archives. Third follows up. He pauses, looks at the men. We can't fail those inside that building, or the ones outside it. At 8:35, the twin-engine Mosquitoes thunder off the runway in pairs, silver flashes lost into the channel haze. Ahead waits a 1,000-mile round trip across occupied Europe, one of the riskiest precision raids ever attempted. 12 aircraft at treetop height cross the French coast below radar. The landscape blurs so close that hedges become streaks of green and gray. The Merlins pulse in perfect sync, prop wash flattening meadows where cows scatter in panic. A few farmers look up and see them as ghosts, barely more than sound. Flight Lieutenant Desmond Sheen, piloting a Mosquito in the second wave, wipes condensation from the inside of his canopy. Never thought we'd bomb at chimney level, he mutters. His navigator checks the stopwatch. 12 minutes to city limits. Hold altitude. Over the Baltic approaches, the sun bursts brief through cloud, and then the city appears. Copenhagen, calm, sunlit, unsuspecting. Trams glide under spring trees, pedestrians pause to look at the strange growl overhead. In the Schellis, German guards barely register the first howl before the Mosquitoes streak along Campmansgate. At precisely 11:12, the lead bomber of the first wave dives to 50 feet, 500-pound bomb doors yawning. It releases clean at rooftop height. The building erupts upward, top floors collapsing in a geyser of gray dust. Seconds behind, Sheen's wave dives through the smoke. He catches the flash of one of the first wave's aircraft, a Mosquito from 464 Squadron, clipping a lamppost. The left wing disappears in splinters. It cartwheels straight into a school building across the street. Even from his cockpit, Sheen hears screams echo through the comm channel. Christ, school hit. Pull up. The voice of another pilot cracks through static. But the target remains. Sheen steadies. Steady on, stay on the line. In the third wave, Flying Officer Ian Laws hesitates barely half a second before diving through the rising dust. We finish it, his navigator says through clenched teeth. Or all this was for nothing. Their bombs dig square into the Schellis center floors. The building caves inward. Gestapo records burn. The interrogation archives, the addresses, the names of resistance cells across Denmark. Prisoners in the upper levels scramble toward smoke-choked stairwells. Danish workers inside hole themselves in basements where shockwaves pass overhead like thunder. By 11:25 the raid is over. The Mosquitoes turn west, streaking low past the burning city, so fast that anti-aircraft guns open fire on empty air. As they rush the coast, civilians on the streets wave or cry, not sure which emotion fits. In the chaos inside the Schellis, fire brigades struggle to climb the smoldering facade. Some of the captured resistance fighters manage to flee down shattered staircases. 17 escape before the rest of the structure collapses. The files that could have condemned thousands now burn white-hot among fallen walls. That afternoon, Danish underground radios broadcast in whispered code, confirming what people saw but didn't believe. The House of Terror is destroyed. Our shame is ashes. The cost is enormous. More than 100 civilians killed, children among them, but the destruction of the Gestapo's heart in Denmark breaks the spine of organized persecution there. At base, Bateson's crews land one by one, some with wingtips scarred and canopies cracked by masonry fragments. Silence meets them. No cheering. Just mechanics who touch the wings as if cooling a fever. In occupied Holland that evening, Luftwaffe Gruppe 2/JG-26 receives orders. Intercept fast low bombers approaching from England. The controller at Soesterberg unfolds new reconnaissance photos. Nothing but streaks across film frames. They were here, the colonel asks. The technician shrugs. We didn't even see them, he says. Somewhere over the North Sea, Bateson's formation levels at 2,000 feet. The crews finally speak. One navigator finds the courage to say what all of them think. We flew through hell to put fire out in someone else's. The Mosquito raid on Copenhagen becomes legend before sunset. A mission measured not by tonnage dropped but by precision and nerve. Models of vengeance replaced by mercy delivered at 360 miles per hour. When reports reach Berlin, Luftwaffe General Galland studies the speed logs and shakes his head. Nicht möglich. Not metal? He asked. What? Aide de camp? Yes, sir. Wood and glue. Galland smiles in disbelief. Then England grows forests that kill as fast as tigers. Across occupied Europe, railway guards and radar operators whisper a new nickname over their headsets and never quite know whether to say it with awe or fear. They call it the Ghost.